All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't want anyone to miss out on the full time to meet teachers. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start. Welcome to senior year, parents. We're so happy to be with you. This is an exciting year, and those of us who work in university and counseling in particular love this time of life. It's such an exciting time. It's a very stressful time, lots of drama, but it is such a privilege to walk alongside young people and their families during this transition. My name is Nicole Cook. I'm the Director of High School Counseling. If you haven't met me yet, I think all of you probably have. And I wanted to introduce the team. We do have 2 school counselors, as Mr. Flanagan mentioned, Ms. Sun and Ms. Purvis, and then 4 university admissions counselors. You should all be familiar with at least one of us. I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Sun just for a second before we dive into the university stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. So nice to see all of you here. I'm here representing Jenny Purvis, my colleague, or our colleague. And myself, we are just wanting to start off with a quick introductory kind of activity because we would really love to hear from all of you the different ways that perhaps we as a whole team can support you all comprehensively. And so if you don't mind going to the next slide real quick, there's going to be paper that's distributed by Ms. Ayong Chi and Ms. Tuen Gilmore. And on this piece of paper, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, what is a hope you have for your child this year? And what we are trying to do with these pieces of paper that we'll gather at the end of our time together today is to display them for all of our students to see. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing what is one hope you have for your child, or couple other questions that you could answer on this paper. What would you like for them to discover or learn, or how would you like them to grow? So any response to any of these questions would be awesome. We were trying to encourage our students as they begin this really important year and support them in different ways possible, whether that's social-emotional type of support, anything in addition to what our university admissions counselors already provide, but also just during times of big decision-making or maybe higher levels of stress and more than usual. And so we're here to come alongside them in their journeys. So throughout this presentation, you could feel free to add on to the paper. We won't be collecting them until the end. And so we really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Feel free to take your time. You can leave that one here. Just leave it on. You can put it here. Leave it on. I did this activity at last night's elementary school for my 3rd grader and came back today and I said, we have to do this for our seniors. It's important as parents to just remember what's important even in the midst of big life-changing decisions. So here's our agenda today. Yours is the heaviest and most serious of all the agendas. I apologize, but that's where we are today. So hopefully it's useful to you. I have asked my team to join me, so you'll be hearing from myself, Mrs. Chi, Mrs. Gilmore. I think it's nice for you to see that we're all working together on best possible applications for all the students. And we have a great team. And so we're going to walk you through some pieces of what's going to happen this year. The first thing I wanted to share are some celebrations from last year. So one of my jobs is to keep track of our data, where people go, how well we do, what our students are interested in doing, and I had such fun crunching this data last year. I tried to make it make sense, right? So I could tell you we sent out 2,000 applications or whatever, but I tried to bring some threads about our graduates that would make sense to our parents and hopefully bring you a lot of joy and hope in this feeling of what's going to happen next. So our students are very globally minded with a huge geographic spread. So you can see 10 countries here, 23 states even within the US. They're very successful in the highly selective processes. So I broke some of that down here, but essentially when they are trying to aim high, often they are very successful. They also, just to give you a sense of that selectivity, 6 of the 8 Ivies, Oxford, Cambridge, University of Toronto, McGill, UBC, which are the Canadian Ivies. So all around the world, SFS graduates are going to top universities from their education here. Note that because of the type of population, we have many of our students go to processes that take place after graduation, such as Australia and Korea. And we also will have students matriculate to top universities in those systems systems as well, but we don't have that data yet. But I think it's important to be mindful of those students who are still going through that process. This is a little bit of a breakdown over the past years of countries where people go. So you can see there's a little bit of hit and miss depending on who's here, who's at what embassy, stuff like that. France and Italy are missing from this chart. We had those last year. Yes, please take pictures if you like, that's fine. I'm also happy to share any of this with anybody that wants. Our students are big urban adventurers, which should make sense being here in Seoul, a massive, amazing city. So they're off to big cities like New York and Toronto as their top choices, and then you can see here a few of the other major cities where our students matriculate. And finally, one of the things that impressed me actually the most last year were these really selective, specialized programs. So students going to programs in UK medicine, which is very challenging, very specific, acting, music, design. We had students matriculate RISD last year for art, multiple students, we had Cooper Union. So these are programs that require a portfolio submission or an audition, tons and tons and tons more work than any of the other types of applications that anyone does. So just really proud of these students who are going on to their futures in really specialized programs. The good news is that most of them are happy, no matter what happened. At the end, they say they're happy with where they're going. One of my big mantras, and you'll hear this in my office a lot and with my parents a lot, is it's a process, right? It's not an answer. And so you have to let the process do its work. So as you go through, things change. The students grow, your family dynamics change. There's a lot going on, and sometimes if you took a snapshot in the middle of the process, you would say, I'm not happy. But at the end of the process, all of the things have resolved, and most people feel very, very good about what's happening next, and that's always a fun time in our office. Okay, so Ms. Gilmore is gonna come talk a little bit about some of the details, the logistics of what's happening next.
Good evening, good morning to some of you guys on the West Coast who are kind of coming in through Zoom. I want to welcome you again, and I want to echo a lot of what Dr. Cook just mentioned. Really, it is a process. We are meeting with your child at the moment. We're having multiple meetings with them, and it's been so amazing getting to know them better, right? It's a journey of self-reflection, not only for them, but for you as a family. So I know that it's a time that is a really delicate stage of your life, because I know that there's so many things that are involved in the college application process, and part of it really is what's happening at home. So you probably have seen, we've met with your seniors or your child, and you notice that we've passed home a couple of information pamphlets. So when we talk about the working application list, what we're really talking about is something that is a work in progress. Having conversations on a weekly basis with some of your children, we can see the progression, right? They've come back with some lists, they've taken their long lists of 15, 20 or more universities, and they've kind of brought it down to a smaller number as they moved from colleges that they're considering to colleges that they're applying. Now, having said that, this is a working list, and we know it changes. As we continue to have conversations with them, we look at the list to see that it is balanced. We see that we have continued conversations to understand what it means to be balanced for them and for you as a family. And so it's a work in progress. Now, the final list that's due, there is an application process agreement. We have some copies in the front if your child hasn't already shared that with you. It is due September 15th. So we have about a month to kind of go through, or a couple weeks to talk more about what that looks like. And we are having these active conversations. If you feel like your child needs a little bit more support, please make sure they reach out to their university counselor. We're here to help you through this process, right? We've been through this journey many, many times before. We are really, really fortunate, as Mr. Flanagan mentioned, to have a team of 4 very qualified and professional counselors who talk to admissions counselors on the other side of the desk every single day, just about, to ensure kind of the pathway to success for your child. So please make sure that they are in contact with us. So in Maya Learning, you've probably heard that over and over again, and some of you guys have probably stalked Maya Learning, I know, at night, because all the admission statistics from SFS are in there. But if you look at Maya Learning, we're hoping in the next couple weeks to make sure that the list that is on Maya Learning matches this final application list too, so that we are able to have really frank, candid, strategic conversations about, are we going to be applying early? Are we applying early decision? Is EA a better fit? Does REA make sense for your child? And of course, at the end of the day, whether it be at Seoul Foreign School or any other international school I've worked at in the past, most students tend to apply to an average of 6 to 9 universities. So for our application policy, for those of you guys who have had children here graduating in the past, you notice that we have upped our numbers to support a more competitive application process. So with 10 universities, UCAS counting as 1, in UCAS your children can apply up to 5. UC is counting as 1. Again, there are several universities that they can apply to. And UAC, which is the Ontario system, it counts as 1 as well, but they can apply to more than 1 in that system. So we're talking about university systems more than anything. If you're unsure whether it is part of a system, again, have your child reach out to us. So the key to this is that it's a balanced list, right? We want to make sure that we have some universities that they are going to be very challenged. It's a very competitive process, and what I call it really is, it's a wild card list, right? We want to apply to some of these universities because no one at the end of the day knows whether or not the admissions process will be successful, right? It really is based on the context of who's applying this year. And then there will be, if your child is in good standing, and the list is balanced, meaning that there are some reach, there's some target, there's some match, there's some schools that they'll definitely probably gain a lot of merit aid for. We will also talk to them through what those 4 additional applications could look like. So depending on how competitive the year is coming out to be, sometimes we may say, you know what, let's push that level of competition up a little bit, let's bump it up, or we may pull back a little bit to make sure that we have some universities that will give them the freedom to choose from a balanced list of both financial and academic fit. So this is what the application process agreement looks like. So please sit down, read through with your child. If you have any questions, please pass it on to us. We are working in collaboration with you, and we want to make sure that you understand the process. Some of you guys have been through this a couple times. For some of you guys, this is the first time. So again, we're here to help. On the back of the form, you'll notice that not only is an agreement with your child, it's also an agreement with you. So please make sure that you ask your child to look at the list, right? Is it the list that you agreed upon? Do you understand what the outcomes could be like? Do you have any questions with some of the application systems? Please make sure that, I think that the more you understand, the less anxious you feel. And no doubt, everyone in this room is feeling anxious. I mean, we feel anxious about this process because we know it's something that there's a lot that we can control, and there's a lot that is out of our control, right? So we're in it together, and we really hope to support you through this process. So as you look at the application list, I saw some of these last year, and they weren't completely filled out, right? If you see that your child hasn't filled it out, please make sure that they take the time to fill out. The reason being is because the one thing that I noticed was they didn't understand the application deadline. And that is, of course, so important, right? If they miss the deadline to turn in the application, there's nothing we can do to go back in time, and they're going to miss that process. So if they're really interested in applying for an ED or an EA or a rolling or a priority application, right, those are due very early on. And some schools are kind of like outliers or anomalies. So it's important that you both understand. And what I ask you to do is help them understand when the deadline is, right? Because days kind of melt into nights, nights into days. Senior year, semester 1 is super busy. So help them by just saying, why don't you invite me to the deadline, and then I'll help, I'll provide gentle reminders and see where you're at. And then, of course, now we're moving down to that short list. So in the past, what you probably saw is that considering list of 15, 20 universities. But now, after the summer break, students have spent some time researching. They've looked at some of the supplemental essays, and they start to see, you know what, these universities are a better fit for me, and they're moving them to the applying list. So again, if your child feels overwhelmed, or if you feel overwhelmed, just make sure to reach out to us, okay? And I will pass this over to Mrs. Chi. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I'm going to talk about some other aspects of the process, deadlines and things like that. For those of you, well, your children headed to the US, this terminology on the screen hopefully is not a surprise to you. They may be considering applying for the early deadlines, and those are coming up November. And so I'll go through the deadlines later. But hopefully this is not a surprise. If it is a surprise to you, then maybe we need to talk about it. And so there is a difference between early decision and early action. One is a binding agreement. Early decision is binding. So if your child says, I want to apply to NYU for their ED1 deadline, that means when you sign that agreement on that application, that means you're saying if my child is admitted, that you're for sure going to send them there. So you have to be committed to paying that hefty fee, as well as sending them away to New York for 4 years. So these are important decisions, obviously. So again, if this is a surprise to you, then we probably want to sit and talk about what these mean. And there are guidelines on how many of these schools you can apply to. If it's a binding decision, obviously you can only apply to one school, because if you're in, you have to go. So those are the things that we want to check as we're looking at the working list, and that's why we want them in at a certain time, so we can have a thorough look at what this means and all the implications, and are we doing it correctly. So there is no limit in terms of how many early action applications a student can submit, as long as that's within our overall limit of 10 plus the 4, right? This gives you a little history of the last 4 years, how many applications were sent early, and the percentage of acceptances from that pool. As you can see, in 4 years, our number of ED binding applications almost doubled, but the acceptance rate did not go up, at the same rate. And we can dissect these numbers for a really long time and talk about many, many, many aspects of it, but we won't do that now. But one of the things that we can glean from this is that many of our students are applying to early decision schools that are just simply out of their range. Okay, you can't apply to a school that is pretty much inadmissible with your academic profile and all those things, and then just kind of hope that you're going to get in because you applied early decision. So those are the kinds of conversations we want to have and are having with our students, your children, and many times you included. And another reason why we want to be on top of deadlines so that we can make best informed decisions. All right, so some deadlines coming up. Like Ms. Gilmore mentioned, September 15th, we want to see that working list. It is a working list, it's not a final list. October 1st would be a deadline that we want our students to adhere to for any October 15th published deadlines. So if your child is applying to like Oxford or Cambridge or UK medicine programs, that application needs to be in at the latest by October 15th. So we want to get that done by October 1, so you're just done and ready to go. October 13th would be what we would call the SFS sort of internal deadline for any applications that are due November 1st. And then December 9th would be when all regular decision applications are completed and hopefully submitted. Okay, there's a little bit of exception here because of other applications that are still in play, but that's the personalized conversation we're going to have with your child, you. So any applications that are due before January. Now, any other application deadlines that's not already mentioned, we want students to give us or give themselves about at least 10 working days so that so they can submit their application 10 working days before, so that we have a good 2 weeks to prepare their supporting documents that need to be sent to the colleges. And we need this time so that we can prepare quality supporting documents. We don't want to miss anything. Your child does, their part and submits their application, but really gives us like a day to work on supporting documents. That really doesn't give us time to put together the quality documents that they deserve. So 10 working days is kind of the internal deadline we're looking at. And we are going to have some consequences for missing deadlines. We want them to this is all for their benefit. So second chance room, I think you might have heard about it. If they miss deadlines in classes, they get assigned to second chance room so they can finish their work. We're doing the same thing. The first big deadline we had was August 16th, and we needed every student who needs to write an essay for their application to share with us a draft of their essay. A few students didn't for various reasons. So we assigned them to second chance, and we're working with that. And because we told them we were going to assign them to second chance, most of them sent us their draft. Like, it's kind of amazing when you give them these consequences. So we're going to use that throughout this process because we want them to get things done on time. It's not for us, it's really for them. And if they have any sort of challenges with meeting these deadlines, then we just want to communicate so that we understand what their needs are. So right now we are meeting with them to check in to see where they're at with their process, and we want them to be working on a regular basis on their applications. Now we do realize that there are students who are not working on any applications right now, and that's okay because their applications don't begin until the spring or maybe the summer, and that's perfectly normal. So if that's your child, they don't need to be working on applications. Okay, so this is all part of the 2 documents that hopefully went home already in paper form. There's digital forms online, and we have more paper forms here. I'll take it outside so you can pick it up on the way if you'd like to take one with you tonight. Supporting documents are what you see here. We've talked to students already about them, and this is what we produce to send along with applications to colleges. And then admission testing, your children should know exactly what they need to take, and they should almost be done with it. And so these are the conversations we're having with them. So hopefully there are no worries about what's missing and what's not. But this is all part of the document that you can pick up if you haven't seen it already. And if you have any questions about what's needed and what's not, please, that's why we're here. And then last thing for me is the IB predicted grades. They are produced at the end of October, and some university systems and countries require them and some don't. And we're working with your students on what to send and when. So if you have any questions about predicted grades and when they come out and who needs them, please let us know. I think that's it.
Mr. Coxick is going to be so proud of me. It is 6:25, so he has a whole half hour to talk about the DP. I also just wanted to add on to one of the things that Mrs. Chi said, which is that if you spend very much time around me, you'll hear me say things like, the product of our college counseling office or university counseling office isn't just where people go to college. Like, one of my counseling goals is that when my students apply to grad school, they do a good job, right? So part of what we're doing, we are also educators, even though we aren't in the classroom. And so the university admissions process is a chance for us to help students grow and mature. So looking at things like consequences and moving them along, we want to also produce a fantastic adult, young adult coming out. So hopefully you guys support us in that, and hopefully we support you as you're also trying to do that. There are a few opportunities to connect with us. So I wanted to highlight those. The first is our Cup of College. First one is coming up in 2 weeks. This first one will be a Q&A. These happen every month. We feature speakers. Sometimes we talk. So please always join us there. It is followed by the Cup of Counseling, which is so cute. So you can stay on and then talk about the most important stuff, which is the well-being of your child and your family. So Ms. San and Ms. Purvis run the Cup of Counseling. The University Admissions Counselors run the Cup of College. These are open forums available all the time for you as parents. We are going to continue to run those on Zoom right now because we find that a lot more parents can access it, but we'll keep looking at our formats, and we're happy to hear your feedback. There are a lot of college reps coming. The calendar is always in My Learning, so you can see. A huge shout out to Mrs. Gilmore, who manages that process, and people are coming back, so it's awesome. We've already had, I had a poor professor from the University of Edinburgh who was here during the 20-minute break, and she almost got like stampeded in the Crave line, but she was all right. So it was great to have her in our chemistry classes. And so we've had a lot of college visitors wanting to come back. There is a big Korea World University panel coming up next week. You can see all that in My Learning, so just stay in My Learning. I will note that for seniors, if there are universities they're thinking of applying to, they should be at the visits. For those, you can ignore all the rest of it, but if they're applying, they need to be at the visits, virtual or not. You can see the visit calendar here. Hopefully you know where to find this with a little screenshot. If you forgot how to get into Maya, your whatever email is in PowerSchool gets you into Maya Learning, so you can just hit forgot password and go back and find your account. Last but not least, a little bit of just sort of recentering as parents, and I say this actually to students a lot, and kind of like Ms. Chi was saying, all of our students are in different places. You remember the matriculation statistics about they're going all over the world, they're doing all kinds of different things. So, I tell my students, like, just try not to listen to kids applying early decision if that's not what you're doing, because you don't need their stress too. You have your own kinds of stress. So, you're going to Australia. Your stress is going to come at the end of the year when your IB results are so important. Like, enjoy the fall where it's not so stressful for you. For the U.S. students, it'll be swapped, right? So just understand where your family is and help your students sort of be where they are. Also, wherever they are developmentally in terms of making a decision, those kinds of things. Remember that your student is applying to university, not you. Sort of universal advice there. Talk about money at the beginning, not at the end, not after they've gotten in and you're not sure how to have the conversation. Help them with the timeline, like Ms. Gilmore was talking about, and then set a time to do this. Don't let it invade everything. It can be fun or not fun, but it's very invasive, right? So it can be the thing you end up talking about. It can be really stressful for students. So just make sure that you're kind of boundarying some of this time, but also that you're offering that time, where you're like, you make yourself available to help and to talk about it and to be really present. We do have our inaugural career summit happening next week. This will be a big event. We have about 50 volunteers coming to campus. A lot of the seniors are doing practice interviews, so we'll let you know how it goes, but we're really, really excited. And that's a QR code if you want to pull up any information. And then last but not least, you can call us anytime. We're here. So we're looking forward to seeing what the rest of the story is in May and being at graduation with all of you. And we hope you'll reach out if you need us. Kamsahamnida. Mr. Cox, come on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Piotr Kosik, and I was given only 20 minutes, so I will go straight to the business. Today, I'm going to share with you the DP results from 2022. I know that we'll be talking about historical results, which are sort of cohort-specific, but I will bring your attention to some trends that hopefully will be repeated in the upcoming years. I also want to talk about the assessments, the calendar, important dates, and tools that hopefully will help you to make the last year very enjoyable for you and for your child. The first slide will be the big picture of the DP results. Intentionally, I will make a comparison with the worldwide results. I'm not going to compare SFS to other Korean schools. There are plenty of reasons. First, it is most of the DP schools in Korea have much smaller cohorts. They're highly selective, or they are single-gender schools, or simply they don't share results publicly. I'm going to share with you and bring your attention to a few things which show that the DP is very strong. It shows the strength of the program, especially the perfect score that we got last year. One of our students got 45 out of 45 points, which is a great achievement. Only 651 students got this result last year, and this student is in 0.74% of all DP students. So less than 1% students worldwide can achieve this score. We also had a lot of students who are very close, 4 students with 44 points and 24% students. So 1 out of 4 students last year got 40 plus, which is very obviously outstanding result. So I hope this trend will be repeated next year, no pressure. And this is just the beginning of a better even journey and better results. We also had last year the biggest DP cohort in the history of SFS. Nevertheless, we were able to maintain high standards and achieve a high average score, as you see, 36 points, which is 4 points above the world average, with the growing number of students. 95% of the cohort decided to take the full diploma, which is the most challenging option, and only 7 opted out and decided to take only courses. We also have another reason for the celebrations, the DP core results. This was one of the biggest achievements, but also goals for the last 3 years to strengthen the DP core and ensure that our students will perform really well in the extended essay and TOK. And again, I'm pleased to share with you that we had the best results in TOK and extended essay in the last 10 years of SFS. This was the best year for us. On average, our students receive 2 points out of 3 possible, compared to 1.5, and that's the average for the IB schools worldwide. More than 50% students got excellent or very good results in extended essay, and more than 50% students got A's and B's, again, outstanding results in TOK. So a very strong DP core. Getting more points, extra points, is very important, especially for students who are applying to European or Australian or Asian universities. Another slide shows the prediction of our teachers. We entered 882 grades last year and sent them to the IB, and then the IB compared our predictions with the final scores of our students. This is very difficult, to be honest, to get like 100% prediction success, because there are many factors that influence and impact the final score. Their stress level, readiness, revision habits, all the little things that might affect their performance on a day when they are taking the exams. Nevertheless, 54% of scores or predictions were spot on. So the teachers predicted more than 50% of grades, 95% of grades, and I think that's the very good result. We were very close. We're either plus minus 1, which is a very understandable margin. So in 95%, the teachers were able to predict the score with a little margin. There are some teachers who can do it and have 100% prediction success. There are especially 2 groups of fantastic IB educators who have 100% prediction success. These are the language acquisition teachers and math teachers. I wonder why. They probably collect a lot of numbers, and that's why they know very well. Okay, a little bit of logistics, and sorry for that, but just so that you are aware, in August 2021, the IB announced that this session, May 2023, will be a very normal assessment session. No amendments, no changes, no changes to the assessment tasks, which means that unfortunately, your child will take all of the exams this year with no changes, no extensions to deadlines. This is the decision of the IB, which we will follow, but don't worry, all the schools have to follow the same, so all of the students around the world will take exams, all of them. What does it mean to us, to teachers? Obviously, there will be more exams in May, more revision, more preparations, but also the grade boundaries might be slightly higher, although IB promised that they would make some adjustments and transition from the COVID grade boundaries, which were significantly lower compared to the pre-COVID grade boundaries. The May examination starts very early in April, 28th, and the end is May 19th. We planned graduation for May 26th. So as you see, it will be 3 weeks of intense work and exams. The individualized schedule will be sent home, and students will get a PDF copy after the registration. And the registration for the exams will start in late September. And I will need your help, especially with the first section. It is about personal details. So the name, the full name, the middle name, all the important things which will be on their diploma. It is very essential that these details will be the same as in a passport. And if you have 2 passports, you have to decide which passport will be used for the application. Because the universities will check and obviously verify what is on the diploma and what is on the passport. So I will need your help to verify the details that students will share with me, and based on that, they will be registered with the following names that they will give on the form. A few weeks ago, we sent the assessment calendar. That was a request after one of our meetings. We will share, and you can now scan a QR code to download the assessment calendar. It does include only the major big assessments happening in grade 12. You can see in September, it's going to be a very busy period. Today, that was, by the way, a very important day to us, to all of us. It was a due date for the first draft of the extended essay. And I'm sure you heard this already. If not, please ask. But I have good news, because only 9 students out of 120 did not submit the extended essay today. And these 9 students will be required to attend what we called a little EE jail on Saturday, on 27th. So you will get an email. Hopefully it's not you, fingers crossed. But 9 of them decided to stay with us on Saturday. It is something that we practice for a few years, and it works really well. Some of them, they came to us and say, I want to stay on Saturday for a few hours and work with Miss Elliott. And that's fine, because sometimes they need 4 hours of undisturbed work, and they are happy to be with us. So it won't be jail, don't worry. We'll feed them, we will give them food and drinks. However, the main purpose is they have to submit the first draft of the extended essay. But congratulations to the rest who submitted today on time. This is amazing and one of our best successes. I also want to share a very highly subjective senior stress level barometer. And I'm absolutely aware that it's highly subjective because there is only one layer probably of the stress, which is us, the teachers, the deadlines. I was told by Dr. Cook that there are many, many other layers, and I'm aware of that. So I just want to show you one layer, which is teachers. Yes, we will sometimes trigger some stress because of the deadlines, because of big submissions, and we just need to acknowledge that it's going to happen anyway, okay? So if your child is stressed already, I would say that it's just a low to moderate level of stress because there will be some months with multiple submissions, and some of your kids might feel it. A very, very busy periods are, as you see, September and October. That will be quite a lot happening in terms of submissions and assignments. And then we will slow down a little bit. So please use especially the winter break to recharge, take your child outside and spend a lovely time, because later on in February and March, we've got a very busy period with the final submissions, mock exam session, and the final preparations for the exams. So these are the most stressful months, at least from our side. That's our contribution to their stress. We have to acknowledge that it's going to happen, and we also are aware that there are other triggers. We're here to help, and I want to also show you some few tips and strategies that you can use to help them to reduce stress. The first one is don't overschedule your child. You heard a lot about getting enough sleep from Dr. Lenazet. I'm going to add one more thing, one more tip, and it's about over-learning and asking them to do more. Apparently, based on experimental studies, you can scan QR code and get the whole study to read. Over-learning does not really impact the long-term retention, and also did not, as you see, change the retention after 4 weeks. It is exactly the same effect compared to the smaller learning sessions. So what the study is suggesting, that the best thing is to have a small chunks, a small study sessions, but multiple and repeated several times over a longer period of time. We do encourage students to study and revise every 20 minutes, every subject, use Pomodoro technique, because that, based on research, is working really well. So cramming and having 7 hours of maths does not work, as you see in the study. There are a little bit more also that you can encourage them to do. Learn in multiple ways. Be the teachers and teach you mathematics or biology if you want to be a guinea pig. Utilize previous learning and make connections. Apparently looking up for answers is much better way of learning. So looking up actively, checking sources will make them really will make them better in terms of remembering the facts. I also added multitasking as something that is not working, and I was really surprised because we all try to multitask and usually it doesn't work. Interestingly, it doesn't work for the learning as well. So it's better if we concentrate on one thing and then do it properly, rather than try to do too many things. Now, say yes to many things. Based on research, collaborative learning works really well for the teenagers. And I know that many of my students have what they call the study groups, and they meet at Starbucks, coffee shops, and they merge two things. They merge socializing with studying. And it seems it works for them. So say yes if they want to go and study at Starbucks. Yes, they're going to socialize, but they need to do it. And surprisingly, it is a very effective way of learning for this particular generation. And obviously, I don't need to convince you that they need to have mental breaks and other activities. If they watch YouTube, it might be something really beneficial. You have to just check if it's TikTok. I'm not sure if it is a very educational tool. I haven't seen any films about photosynthesis on TikTok, but on YouTube, yes. There are many tutorials, many crash courses. So if they want to watch and listen to podcasts or just watch animations, please allow them, because that's a very good source of information. And last but not least, I'm sure you want to also monitor your child's academic performance. You will, and I'm sure you are aware, you can do it using ManageBack. If you need help to log in, or you don't have your account, or you don't know how to log in, I just added an email address, so please ask IT support here at SFS to help you. There are a few things that you need to be aware and help us with, because as Mr. Flanagan said, giving feedback is very important, and timely feedback is even more important. So if it doesn't work and the teachers are struggling to meet certain deadlines, I know that students do, but I am aware that some teachers might also be a little bit late. We need to know that, and you have to help us. The first thing is to reach out to the teacher and ask what is happening. I want to get feedback. If there is no response, please contact us. Because we have a very strict policy. As you see, everything is on ManageBack. All major assessments must be placed and entered on ManageBack, so you are aware. Also, feedback will be reported on ManageBack within 10 working days after the task completion. There are some exceptions. Exceptions are very rare, and we'll talk about this later. So please help us to hold accountable both students and teachers. And I see Dr. Lenazet, which means that my time is over. Thank you very much. I'm here again to answer any questions if you have. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm going to be quick because I know you've been sitting for a very long time now. That's the downside of being a grade 12 parent. You had to stay here, so you've been here for a while. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new schedule. So, Mr. Kosik, that stress level chart as a grade 12 mother is concerning me a great deal. I can tell you my child is in the red right now, so I don't know how that worked. Not very scientific, maybe. We had many arguments about this in the office. Thank you, though, for your presentation. So we got a new schedule for a few reasons. The first one is that we wanted a whole school schedule because we are sharing many facilities, many teachers, and it was very, very complex. You can imagine that having a shared schedule for children that go from 2 years old to 18 years old was very complicated, but we managed to do it thanks to Mr. Jan-Mark, who's here, Mr. Seawald, who managed to do this. So that was one reason. A very big reason in terms of the high school, and especially DP, is that we had a pretty bad imbalance of standard level and high level hours, and now we have a perfect number. So we had too many standard level hours and not enough higher level hours, which is not what is recommended by the IB at all. So that has been now changed. And finally, very importantly, we found that students were very stressed out because the day wasn't flowing very well. They had a lot crammed into the middle of the day. Some days they didn't have time for lunch and things like that. So actually they have a lot more time around lunch, so they can catch their breath and they can study and all that. Just a few details. So it's all very confusing because we have a week A and a week B and all that. So everyone was confused to start with. I think we're getting into the swing of it now. But as always, everything's on managed back, so students just tend to look at managed back and they look at what they have that day. We used to have, some students had a 5-minute break, some students had a 15-minute break. It was confusing. Now everyone has a 20-minute break. It's a very long queue at the cafe, but at least they all have a break at the same time, and it's a bit longer. And then we have these lunch periods, 3 in a row, where we have put all sorts of different things that I will show you in a minute. And we finished 5 minutes early because we had some bus issues and all that. So actually, it has been beneficial. Now, this is the lunchtime schedule. You can see it's complicated, but I want to highlight all these red arrows are the places where students can get support from their teachers or from their heads of grade. So there are multiple opportunities almost every day to get some support. So if you hear your student at home saying, I don't know how to do this, or I can't finish my homework because this is too hard, or I didn't really understand this, or I have a test in 3 days and I don't really get what I'm supposed to be doing, please tell them, go to extra help, because that's the place where sometimes they can proactively go, and teachers love it when they do that, or sometimes they are cordially invited to attend by the teachers. But if they do go there, it's really helpful. And if they don't, and there continues to be issues, maybe with deadlines, as you know, they will then end up in a second chance room. That's also by invitation only, exclusive. So we had clubs start, actually, this has now taken place, the fairs, and we had clubs start this week. But for the juniors and seniors, they don't have to take a club, but many of them do, because many of them are executives in the clubs. I also wanted to point out this really new, exciting opportunity offered by our teachers, and that's the enrichment program, which is starting next week. So we're hoping that students will join. This is the program just for 11 and 12, so it's really quite diverse. Some of it's just fun, but a lot of it is also academic, and it's just enrichment. So there is also some time for things like that. And then finally, we have rebranded what we used to call Seminar and CT, and it's all a little bit more of a unified foundations program, which is basically the building character part of SFS. So we are a bit more intentional as to like building character. And so we have counselors, the DP Core organizing some sessions, but also we have community foundations, which is basically an assembly that we have every 6 days. And that's actually it for me. I just wanted to show you the new schedule, explain it a little bit, and highlight the fact that we are spending more time on their wellness, but also on building character and helping you raise your children, hopefully. All right, thank you very much. Are we answering a few questions, Mr. Kosik? But we have 4 minutes, 4 real minutes. Thank you.
And we have only 2 questions received from you. One was about the report cards. The progress report will be released on October 14th at 4 p.m. And you can access the progress report in ManageBack. That will be the first sort of checkpoint. So I would encourage you to look at the report. It will generate grades, so you will see the same grades will be used as their predicted grades. So it's quite important. And the second question, I'm not an expert to answer. So I will invite Dr. Cook to answer for the art college applying student. Okay, and the answer is it's a very individualized probably issue, so we would encourage you to reach out to the counselor individually, separately, and ask. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one more thing. I think you wrote a note for your child at the beginning of the session. Dr. Cook is at the back with her basket, and if you can drop the note in the basket, that would be great. And I want to thank Dr. Cook and Mr. Kosek for their really comprehensive information, and also Ms. Chi, who was talking earlier as well. Thank you so much, everyone.